want to bring in Rob Luna, Wealth Academy founder. Rob Luna, thank you for joining the program. It's great to have you. I want your thoughts on this rate cut, because to me 50 sounded a little scary, but you're thinking that actually this could be a little bit bullish for investors. Why?
Yeah. I mean, I was one of the people who said that I think the Fed needed to cut 50, but I thought the probability of that happening was basically zero. So I think that was a little bit of a surprise to the market. But what it's here to say is, again, like they say, don't fight the Fed. The Fed is on your side. And a lot of the things that you were just talking about in terms of yields coming down that benefit the banks actually having to now lend to small businesses and do some things except set in cash, that is going to be good for stocks. It's going to be good for the business. It's going to take a long time for that to get into the market. But I do think we are in a recession right now. If you look at some of the real numbers, if you look at the real economy, people are struggling. Credit card debt, the amount of flexible income that people are paying on interest payments. This is good for the market, certain sectors, especially.
The only caveat, though, to this time versus previous very fast cutting cycles is it's also an election year. We're 45, 50 days out. Does that change the calculus on how you think about investing in these markets?
Yeah, well, look, and a lot of people are saying, like, hey, 50 basis points was definitely political, and that's probably the case, more than likely the case. However, you have to separate politics from the real economy, and this does help the real economy. Now, here's going to be the thing, though. We've got an election coming up in November, and you know better than anyone, Taylor, the Fed, all they can do is monetary policy. What we really need is some fiscal policy to happen here also. So depending on who gets elected, that's going to tell us what type of fiscal policy is or is not coming. So I think this election, more than any in the past, I've always told my clients, don't worry about the election. Markets are going to be fine. I do think this time is different, basically on what I just said. What type of fiscal policy are we going to get out of this next presidential election?
Spending, tax policy, there's a lot that could really impact money and the economy. You know, Rob, talk to me about Nike. Fascinating report that we got overnight. The CEO stepping down. They're pulling in instead Elliott Hill, who had previously been at the company for 32 years. They're pulling him out of retirement, basically admitting that that direct-to-consumer strategy is not working and they need to pivot. Is this an idiosyncratic story about Nike or a broader consumer slowdown story, and a CEO change does or does not help that?
Look, I think you saw the same thing with Starbucks, and those were two stocks that I said, okay, once they got beat up so bad, Nike just a few months ago, it's probably time to step in, because companies like Starbucks, companies like Nike, when you see them underperforming that bad, you know there's going to be some activists, there's going to be some shareholders that are calling for something different. So we saw the ex-Chipotle guy come into Starbucks to turn that around. I do think that was part of the economy, and now you're seeing this with Nike. However, I'm a little bit intrigued by the choice, like you said, to pull this guy who's been in retirement. I don't know that that's the long-term direction that Nike needs to go, but they definitely need something, because this is a point in time where everyone's dressing more casual. They should be crushing it, and they've absolutely been getting their lunch eaten by Adidas and some of these other players out there.
Finally, help us make some money here. What's a stock that you're watching that's really under the radar that maybe I don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, the name that I'm going to talk about today is Moelis. It's symbol MC. So the thing I like about this is they pay a great dividend, almost 4%. They also pay an annual one-time dividend based off of profits out to shareholders, kind of like a REIT that you were just talking about. But it's primarily M&A. And I do think, especially what's going on right now, really on either side, I think if Trump gets in, that ignites M&A. But I also think if he's not elected and we get Harris in there, companies are going to need to consolidate, because unless they can get bigger economies of scale and scope, they're not going to be able to survive. So I think M&A picks up, and this is a company to directly pay that, but I also think you're getting some nice income while you're waiting for Moelis.
That's an interesting comment, particularly in some of the regulatory antitrust environment that we've seen. Rob, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.